Hey everyone, welcome once again to another painting video. I'm Joe Menza and gonna do a nice little mountain vista type scene for you. And I'm just starting off, I'm gonna just wet the paper with my brush and get a good amount, fair amount of water on there. This is 11 by 14, 90 pound Fabriano Studio. So we got a nice little sheen going on here. Now when you use 90-pound paper, I gotta warn you, you can have some buckling of the paper. Thicker paper won't do that as much. I don't really have a problem with it buckling, honestly. A little bit, but it doesn't really buckle that much. So I'm doing my usual little raw sienna and yellow ochre, and we're just getting some colors up in the sky on the paper here. Just kind of working up to it. There's a little bit of a glare going. Hopefully that's not too distracting. We're going to come in with some ultramarine blue. Might be French ultramarine blue. Half the time I don't remember what I squeeze out onto my palette anymore, but it's close enough anyways. Just want to get a nice solid amount going on there. And then we'll drop in some clouds. Just kind of build it up a little bit. And we're going to leave some of that yellow to fade back in down there. So watch this. This is a alizarin crimson mixed in. This is what I've been liking doing lately, just for simplicity's sake. We're going to put in the gray of the clouds first. This is something I've been kind of playing around with, and rather than trying to put white for a cloud and then gray underneath, I put the gray in first and then lift out the top of the cloud with either a wet brush, paper towel, whatever you like, and just rubbing out some of that. You can see how that works out that way. And you clean off a little bit of your brush. That you get a little color on there, make some small clouds at the bottom like that. Kind of going for some randomness there. This, by the way, I'm in my home easel now. If you notice, a little bit different of a look. A lot of time I try to do a painting on my lunchtime, but sometimes I can do a little bit more elaborate at home. So this is definitely going to fit into that category. Now you can come back with more gray if you feel like you want a little bit more shadow underneath the cloud. You can come back, but then you're going to want to kind of come back and dab a little bit off, get it to blend in a little bit. Just experiment. As long as it's wet, you can continue to play. You know, you don't want to overwork it, but get too fussy with it. And when it dries, things will happen. Now look at that. We've got some nice clouds going there. Okay, so on the bottom of the screen, I basically just looked, on the bottom of the painting, I just put in some like yellow ochre, a little cad yellow, just, this way I'm not committed to anything. It could still be really just about anything. Foliage, water. And off to the side here, we'll put a nice little mountain here below the clouds. So just using some leftover paint that's on the palette. Some grays, ultramarine blue. Give it a little spray just for some little texture, keep it wet. And I'm going to take the card here and just do a little bit of scraping. Just following the same trajectory there with the slope of the mountain. And we're taking the Clean and Dry Frank Clark goat hair brush and just kind of blending that in. And we're just going to darken the shadow side of the mountain. And I'm just going to blend that in a little bit. It looks a little artificial at this point. However you scrape your mountains or however you do, just, make it look how you like it to look. Well, what looks natural to you. Or don't scrape them at all. And you could take a wet brush. You can remove a little bit, whatever effect that you get that you like, you should explore. You should be exploring different ways of doing things. I give you some ideas. My hope is to encourage and inspire, honestly, more so than selling paintings or any of that stuff. At the end of the day, when people say they were encouraged or inspired by you, it's worth more than the other stuff. And the fact that I have a format to do that here is great. So I've made some green up using my usual yellow, blue, and Payne's gray, and I've just kind of dotted in a foliage area sort of below the mountain. And you'll notice immediately that mountain looks like it's a little bit further back. And we'll put a little tree up here. Just take the fan brush. Just mush it in there. Put a little cad yellow highlight on there. And you can just use the excess on the brush just below that just to get some of the paint off. And I gave it a little spray there. And I'm giving it a little flick. Another little textural trick. Just give it a little, if it's a little too solid too, just dip your toothbrush in some water and give it a flick. The more water that's on your toothbrush, the larger the blobs of water. And the smaller dots are, if your toothbrush has less water on it. And then obviously you can dip it in, you could put a little bit of paint on there, yellows or blues or anything like that, and give little flicks of paint. And the way that they blend in with solids really just, it makes it look like it's randomized, and it gives it a little sense of realism, surrealism and realism all at the same time. So now I'm just taking that fan brush and I'm going at it sideways and just making a line of trees over here. And a little solid, so I'm just kind of dabbing it with a tissue. And it can randomize and lift some paint back. You can go lighter that way. And if you do too much, you can come back again with some darker. Give it a little spray. That'll break it up too a little bit. I want these to be look a little bit closer. And put some little highlights on there too. You notice I'm going a little slightly different in this one with the greens. I'm trying to go with, I don't want to say a neon green, but something that's a little more, a brighter green, maybe a summertime green. And if you look, that mountain looks like it's miles back there. Just utilize that fan brush to take advantage of the randomness of each bristle. So I think on the bottom here, I'm just going to go with some water elements, and we'll try to make it sort of reflect the trees. We'll drop in a little blue. And maybe a little bit of shadowing or reflection. Just give it a blend. Just really to give it some overall atmosphere. When you look at it, it looks like a nice place you'd like to be. So really at this point, a majority of the painting is overall done. And you're moving into the foreground. I've had people ask me, they're not quite sure what to do. For some people, the clouds aren't a problem, but the foreground is a problem. So, what's the plan for that? And, for me, it's a little easier because I've already laid in the top portions. So as long as it matches together, as long as it flows into the foreground, you want to look at the colors, you want to look at the, your focal point, you want to look at your composition, and just make sure things stay directed into the area that you're wanting people to look toward. It's one thing to make a beautiful scene, but another thing that there's some area of focus. In this case, I'd say it's probably the distant mountain that ultimately people will land on. They'll work their way maybe into the clouds because they sort of touch. But, the soothing water kind of brings you in a little bit. The colors, and like I said, it looks like a place you want to be, but a foreground element should probably be a little bit darker as you get to the bottom of the page. You can put sort of some things in the corner to direct people back to the center of the painting. You definitely don't want them taking a left or right turn off the page and then they're kind of done looking. The goal is to have someone look at your painting and keep looking at it. And if you're selling paintings, they look at it long enough, then they may say, I have to have this scene. There's that part, there's that element of it. So right now we're putting in some shoreline, now that we know we're going to do water here. So we've got a lot of green and yellow reflections from the foliage above, but I want to make this water, so we'll just work it out from what we have to work with now. It would be fine if it was just straight up foliage, but it would be probably too much with all the trees. So at this point, I'm taking some burnt umber. I'm just gonna sort of frame out that water. We'll put something in the foreground to kind of push you back into the water and then off to the mountain area. In all honesty, I'm not really liking the watercolor very much. I probably would have made it a little bit more blue, and we can add that. We can add some blue elements into it, and it'll be a little bit more of a blue-green. So I'm going to take a little bit of white, gouache, and I'm going to put that along the bank of the water. Just right out of the tube. You can spread it out with a brush if need be. And just spread it a little bit. If I really wanted a bright white, I'll use more because it will fade back quite a bit. So at this point, I'm going to grab some cerulean blue out of my bin. I don't keep this on my palette, but sometimes it makes for a nice color. A little bit of an aqua color, I guess, when blended in with what I have going there already. And we'll just sort of blend that in while it's still a little wet. Just kind of bringing that down into the water just to get some other colors playing off the water. Definitely a unique look there. It's a little oceanic, I think. And I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to highlight some of those foreground shrubs just to get some nice bright light catching off of it. So we'll just stipple a little bit of that in. While that's drying, I'm just kind of blending a little bit with my finger the water line. So now we're closing in on the finished painting. We'll just add a few little minor details here and there little surface reflection, and some little sticks and some little twigs and things. This is where you sit back and you just look at if there's anything that can, little fine things just to throw in there. Little sticks, little twigs, little textural things maybe you can do. Personally, I'm happy with most of the elements in this painting. The water is probably, I'd say, the weakest element. It's just not my preferred look, but there is water out there that looks like that, I'm sure, and there are people out there that would, those colors would appeal to. So a lot of times I'll go with it even though it's not my personal favorite choice of something. You got to use different colors and different things, and thinking in somewhere in your mind that it will appeal to someone. It might appeal to some characteristic of the room in their house where they want to hang a painting. So it doesn't hurt to stretch out. You get in a habit of making all things all the same colors all the time, and you'll get in a rut if that happens. So it's good. It's good to try different elements and different things. So I'm just going to toss a couple birds up here with my micron pen and just breaking up a little bit with my finger. And at some point I'm going to have to stop because I don't want to overdo anything, but put a few little more scratches in. When doing an imaginary scene, you just reach inside your mind and kind of think, what would look nice here? Think of it of arranging a room in your house. You're going to put the sofa here, you're going to put the TV here, you're going to put the lamp here. It's like that, only you're using trees, mountains, water, rocks. Where am I going to put these things? But we want it to look natural and random. So that's it. Let me know what you think of the painting. Just dabbing in a little wet brush and patting it with a tissue. That can create some little lifting and random elements too, and lighten things up so you can get some lighter contrasts. So here is the finished painting, and here it is in its virtual frame. Thank you so much for watching and supporting me. Have a great day, everyone.